Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee from the Skill Builder channel, and today I'm going to be fitting a Abacus Uno wet room tray, and it's a wall-to-wall tray. It's 1800, but you can cut it down, which is ideal if you're taking out the bath and putting in a wet room. It means you can adjust it to the available space. Now, the big advantage of this tray is that it's a two-way fall, so you don't have to do any complicated envelope cuts around the tiling. It just runs into a linear drain, which is adjustable. The trim can be cut to whatever width you've got available. Now, in this case, we're going to be running this tray up to a bath, so that's absolutely fine. But if you wanted to run it wall to wall, you can do that as well. This comes as a kit, and when you order the kit, you can also select which color trim you want. In this case, we're going to be going for the brass trim, which is their new color. So I'm working on site today, so there will be a few bangs and crashes in the background, but I'll just take you through this preparation that we do to put any wet room tray down, because we want to put it flush with the floor and keep the build up to the minimum. What we do is we take away the floorboards, we put some trims in there, and we put some infills of ply in there, and then we can put the adhesive over the top. This preparation is fairly standard. We've done it lots and lots of times in the videos, but it is worth getting this bit right, making sure that you've got no movement in the floor. So we've got the instructions here. We've also got a little note to the tiler. This piece, don't throw it away because you will need it. Now I'm just going to try a trial fit and hope that the room's square, but if it's not square, it is possible to adjust this tray just simply by cutting a bit. But I like to square the room up. If I'm using elements board, then I can make any minor adjustments, and that means that when the tiler comes in, they've got nothing to complain about. A critical point is that you have to put this tray down on a level subfloor, so the fall is built into the tray. So long as we're level at the edges both ways, just like any shower tray, you'll be fine, and then we can bed it down on the adhesive. Now, I'll just say at this point, we're going to mark out where the waste goes in, and it's very, very important that you read the instructions, because the one mistake that a lot of people make here is that they either cut this too small so that the plastic bit is sitting on the timber and that's pushing it up, or they cut it too big and then you don't get the support around the edge of the drain. So it's perfectly easy to do it. Just mark it out, measure it and cut it, and if you cut it precisely, you won't have any problem at all. We've marked out that bit, but we've actually got to cut this so that it all goes through the aperture. As always, I've just hit that support that I put in down there, so I'm going to have to cut a bit of that out as well. So this trap is really versatile because you can turn it around whichever way. In this case, I'm going to go out that way, so I'm going to use this outlet and I'm going to blank that one off with a solvent weld plug in the end there. Now, if you want to reduce it to 1.5 inches, which you can do by putting in the reducer this way round, that'll give you about 30 litres a minute of drainage, which is absolutely fine for this job. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll go out that way. But if we were going out the side there, we would put in this adapter here, which will then give us the 3-degree fall. And you can see it says up on there. So long as you get that upright, you've got your fall going down. So in the pack here, we've got a couple of O-rings. You can put them on now, because if you put them on, you won't lose them. But we obviously want to keep them clean. So you can see where the seal is on this ring, but I recommend just putting a little bit of silicone grease on there just to ease it in. So in this case it worked out for me, but if it didn't work out, I've got two choices. I could trim up to 100mm off this back edge, but you'd never have to do that because the joist is only 50mm wide, so you can just ease it back or forwards off of there. The other thing you could do if you wanted to is to just simply flip the tray round. That would just mean that your big tiles were on the inside and your small tiles were on the outside. You'll see what we're going to do with a 600mm tile. It's designed to do that. But you can see that if I turn it round, we've got an alternative position, which actually is nice because it fits right smack bang in the middle of those two joists. Now you can see that when I put this support in here, the plywood support, that I've gone to the next joist, because obviously you can't finish halfway. So what you've then got to do, we know where the shower tray is, we've measured that. So now we'll just put the infills in, and that gives us a level floor so that everything in this wet room is waterproofed. But before we do that, I've got to screw these plywood infills down onto the battens. So with all the boards screwed down, the thing that I really like to do is just check that everything is firm on the floor, that there's no movement. That movement goes through to the tray and the tiles. Even with flexible adhesive, we want to make sure that we've got a good solid firm floor. So just a tip for you, when you start doing this bit of priming and adhesive, make sure your family pets are out of the way. Go on Teddy, off you go. Now I've mixed up the former adhesive that comes in the kit, and the thing to do with this adhesive is to mix it up and then let it sit there for a few minutes, and then just give it a quick whisk up again before you use it, and that way it keeps the open time in the adhesive a little bit better. And in the kit you also get a nice notch trowel so that you can get a nice even bed of adhesive down to press your tray into. The reason I've put this MD adhesive on where it goes up to the wall is really just belt and braces, because as you're going to see later on, we really do make sure that it's perfectly sealed with the tape. Now before this adhesive sets, I just want to check one more time that this waste is going to fit on the top of here. That's fine, that lines up okay. And now I'm going to put a couple of bags of adhesive on there just to keep the tray down while the adhesive sets. Now when you're tightening these screws up, you don't need to over tighten them. It won't help the seal. So long as that's connected underneath, it's going to be absolutely fine. And they recommend only 1 Newton meter. So if you've got a torque screwdriver and you tighten it, you set it to 1 Newton meter, that's hardly anything at all. So if you over tighten it, you do risk damaging something. Put all 4 screws in, get the thing located, don't just tighten up 1 screw. Make sure they're all home, and then just get your torque screwdriver and give them that final tighten. The way this is designed is that that seal is really not actually doing anything at this point. The only time that seal would ever really come into play is if your waste was blocked, the shower tray was full up with hair and it started to flood over. But in normal operation, all the water is just running straight down inside the trap, and the seal doesn't really come into play. So very, very unlikely that you'd ever get a leak unless you cut the hole too small and it was riding on the plywood, or you cut it so big that you were getting some kind of movement or distortion at the edges here. But here you can see that this is never going to leak. Now I would say that I have met plumbers who are just a little bit nervous about doing jobs like this, wet rooms and so on, but there's nothing to worry about. So long as you follow the instructions to the letter, don't try and cut corners, you will not have any trouble. And when you're putting this on, don't brush it out too much, because it's a sealant, it's not a paint. You know, we're not looking to get rid of the brush marks, we're looking to get a good seal behind that waterproof tape. Now, anybody that's watched our other bathroom videos will know that we always tank the whole area. That way we can be sure there are no water leaks, no water will get through to the substructure. So in this case, I've used the wall kits from Abacus, which give you the 12mm boards, and also the floor kit, which gives you the 10mm board, so you can continue out that wet room former all the way out to the edge of the room. So everything in that room is completely waterproof. I know some people think it's unnecessary, but I've been out to so many bathrooms where they've had absolute devastation. The whole thing's got to be ripped out simply because they didn't do this. Now, this is what makes the Uno tray different to the other shower formers. It's this channel, this drain system. This has actually got a fall in it. So the way this works is that this is kind of like the level point, if you like, the neutral point on the tray, and this locks into there, and it takes all the water from the tiles down into this drain on both sides and safely away. Now, we've got to stick this down with MD sealant, but before I do that, I've got to cut this. And don't make the mistake of cutting the wrong end, by the way. You can see the fall is in there. Now, you could put this under the wall tile, but I think the best way is just to butt it up to the wall tile. So I'm going to calculate the thickness of the wall tile plus a couple of millimeters for the adhesive bed. 738 on there, and I cut this with an angle grinder. Now, I just want to show you one thing about the way this works. This piece here clicks in, and once it's in, you can see it's all perfectly okay. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to have the tiles and the bed of adhesive, and you want this to be very, very slightly below the tile surface or level with the tile surface, so that the water drains in without collecting around the edge. Get everything set out, know where you're going with your tiles. Don't forget, this will be the low spot when you comb through your adhesive. Let me just take that away so you can see what's going on. So what we would do with this is to just bed it up slightly on the MD adhesive, and then when we know where we're going with it, we just push it down very gently into place, and then we're absolutely perfect with the tiles. And the other very important thing, by the way, is that we fill this channel with tile adhesive so that that becomes one solid piece. I've fitted a great many of these waterproof ducket boxes that Abacus supply, and they're a great place to put your shampoos and everything, and they are completely waterproof once you seal them in, like this one has with MD. But they've also now introduced some colour matched liners, if you like, that go inside that box. Now, the idea is that you finish your tiling off all the way around to the edge, and then this goes in, and the last bit you can seal this in with MD, and then finishing it off with a silicone round the edge, and then you'll make sure that's nice and waterproof. But even if water did get inside, it's not going to find its way into the structure. So nice little addition, and these of course are colour matched to that channel and all the other fitments in your bathroom. So this is what it looks like finished. We've run the water through here, and you can see if I put the level across here, you can see that there's a gap there. It's falling down to the channel on both sides, and this way it's level, but the fall is in the channel. So I've tested this and it works perfectly. You can take the cover out. It's adjustable here, so that you can get it to exactly the right height. And here we take out the little trap, and you can clear all the hair and everything else that builds up in showers. Pop it back in, very, very easy to do, and no tools required. So I love that. I think that's a great thing. So all in all, no complicated tiling. And one thing I really like about this is that it falls in nicely with the 600 tile. So you can use the whole 600 there to the edge of the fall if you like. And if you wanted to use 600 by 1200, absolutely fine. But it just looks seamless, doesn't it? That's it all working, and we've tested it thoroughly. The only thing I've got to do now is fit the screen. We're just waiting for that to arrive. We're going to put a bit of glass up here. Not that you necessarily need it, but in this case, because we got this furniture in close proximity, we don't want that getting wet. So we're going to put the screen up there, just a walk-in area. So now we've finished this shower room, you can see how this little box fits in nicely. All it's got to be is siliconed around the edge, and that's it done. But if this isn't to your taste, if you don't like the brushed brass, they do it in brushed stainless steel, they do it in anthracite, they do it in black. So there are other finishes available, but I think it's a really nice, neat little way of finishing off, somewhere to store your shampoos and so on, and totally waterproof. Another little innovation from Abacus. Now you see, when we fitted the Uno tray, it was a wall-to-wall situation, so you can trim it down to suit. Here we're fitting an Uno tray into a corner, which is a fairly typical installation. But there is one issue that you might have spotted here, and that is that as you've got the fall coming down here and down here, you've got a straight piece of glass, a frame here, and that means there's a small gap underneath the tray. Now you don't want to wodge that up with silicone or anything like that, but you clearly don't want any water escaping out the side of that tray. So Abacus have a solution to that. So you can see what's happening here. The water is creeping gradually to the edge there. It's going to drain into the drain, obviously. So there's the problem, and here's the solution. So the way you do it is you fit this strip, which can go on the left or the right. We fix that with MD sealant. We put a good bead all the way down the edge there. So when you tile, the tile will be sitting up at the top, obviously run down towards the drain. But before you tile, if you put another bead of MD sealant all the way down the edge and then tile up to it, you're going to make absolutely sure there's no issue with any water seeping through there. And it's a really neat solution. If you look here, there's no trace of any gap there at all. If I put this on now, that's a pretty extreme test, isn't it? And that's what I always do with all shower screens, all wet rooms, everything. You want to make absolutely sure that when you walk away from the job, you're not going to get a phone call from the customer saying, I've got water seeping under my shower screen. So there you are, that's the Uno 2-fall tray or wet room former. And if you want to find out more about this product from Abacus Bathrooms, follow the link on the screen.